All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. It is Wednesday, May 17th of 2023 here. We have the Eastern Conference Finals for between Miami and Boston tipping off tonight. I think is the right word here. Should be fun, should be really cool. And then DraftKings also has their 2-game Wednesday to Thursday, 2-game main slate for the second game of the Lakers and Denver. We also have some MLB going on today. There's an early 5-game slate as well as the 7-game main slate. Later today, DraftKings has 4 classic slates going on. We have golf teeing off tomorrow for the PGA Championship, so that should be awesome. And then we also have NHL back tomorrow. So plenty of DFS action happening today through the rest of the week here. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. It's a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS-related questions that come in live in the YouTube chat, in the Office Hours channel, in our Discord server, or via support. You can reach us at support@sabersim.com as well here. So that being said, not too much else for the intro here. You're going to get the app pulled up. We have 2 questions actually 3 questions in the Discord to get us started today. And we have, looks like Daniel early here in the YouTube chat. So we're going to knock all these questions out. But if anybody has any additional questions, now is always a great time to get those in here. So going to start with this one from Kevlar87. Question says, I just upgraded from basic to pro. Is there a more recent video tutorial that explains all the different features? The only one I could find was 7 months ago, so I'm not sure if there is a more updated version or not. So the easiest, to be honest, the thing that I did to go and figure this out is I went over to our YouTube channels, like the best place to go, and then in the search bar, just type in pro, give it a keyword here. So this was the main video that we did, Behind the Sims, episode 18, building a strong DFS process with SaberSim Pro. I had Jordan, Andy, and Matt on for like the unveiling of SaberSim Pro. We talked about it here. So this was a really good video. And then I've talked about it periodically here. I think you could click into this video here, and then all right, what is going on in the description? They're timestamped here. So you can just click to the portions of the video that you want to listen to. So we have this SaberSim Pro at 532, SaberSim Pro Part 2 at 1120, and then if we go down here, there's a SaberSim Pro features explained at 4746 here. So we demo the features each and every day, but if you're looking for some content on it, I think that those are probably the 2 videos that I would suggest. And then we also have other times that it comes up. Should I upgrade to SaberSim Pro? Throughout these office hours videos. So search pro on the YouTube channel and see if you can find some sound bites that help you explain anything, or if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to help you out here on the show. All right. Next question here from Bill's Nut 66. Question says, if entering 3 20 max contests, would you prefer sorting by unique rank or unique random? Good question here. So I've really gone back and forth about this like a lot throughout the season here. I know we're only like a month and a half in. So I used to do unique rank where I would order the contest based on like prize pool. So what I would do is let's say that I had a $4 20 max. Say I have a $1 20 max and a 25-cent 20 max, right? 3 different kind of price levels. What I would do is in the entries tab, I would put the $4 20 max first, the $1 20 max second, and the 25-cent 20 max third. And then I would fill by unique rank, where my best lineups are going into the contest that I care to win the most, because the prize to first is the highest. I think that's a fine decision if that's what you want to do. The one thing that I've noticed is that I tend to be opinionated in the post build. And if you don't have any opinions, I would suggest doing it that way. The only thing that happens for me specifically is that, let's say that there are some exposures to a team that I'm not getting, that I want to go and get, and I want to search those out. And I talked a little bit about this in the pro video that we did last week with Jordan and Scott. But if I have to force the builder to give me some of the teams that I want to see, those teams are going to come from the bottom. So what's going to happen is that, let's say I have 20 lineups, 1 through 20. What SaberSim is going to do is it's like, okay, let me get rid of the bottom 4 lineups and replace them with the exposures to the teams that match your request. And then those are going to come in at the bottom of my pool. So if I want any of those, what I'm considering my type of like leverage plays in my top dollar contest, I'm never going to get those, because SaberSim is just going to give me the 1 through 21st. Those lineups are going to go into like my 25 cent 20 max in the example that we're talking about there, right? So I end up in a little bit of a dilemma where, like, okay, I think these plays are good. I do want to see some of them in my lineups here. So because of that reason specifically, I personally like to use unique random. There is more variance, I think, with that approach. You could have a lineup miss a lot of the time, right? But by doing it that way specifically gives me the I guess comfort that, there was a chance that the teams that I wanted got into my higher dollar contest, and I will take whatever proportion of stacks that are with that team got into the contest. I'm not like filling unique random and then going and checking the contest and making sure I got like the right amount. I'm kind of just accepting the variance, but just knowing that I can get to those teams, it makes me feel a little better. So definitely, I think both versions of that are okay. Just kind of depends on the type of player you are, what you want your lineups to look like for different contests. All right. Next question here from Mike, and then we will jump over to the YouTube chat here. Question says, hey, Andrew, what is the best way to stack teams in MLB using SaberSim? Meaning, for example, if I want 20% of Yankees, Mets in one stacked lineup, and also to add that, how do you control the one-offs to what you want in your lineups as well? Okay, so if you want to build game stacks, meaning, for example, if I want 20% of Yankees, Mets in one stacked lineup, if you're looking for like specific combinations of stacks, that is offered in the home screen here. Maybe they're on the main slate. Okay, I see Mets and I see Yankees. Okay, so what you can do if you want specific stacks, go to the team stacks tab on the home screen. There's this little arrow for next to each team, which opens up a drop down. This shows you New York plus Chicago, New York plus Cleveland. So what I could do is I could go down to New York plus the Mets, and then I could do a min exposure of 20% here. This is the only way to control this pre or post build. So if this is what you want, you're going to have to do this in the home screen, which I think is fine here. So just open up that drop down, go down to the Mets, increase your min exposure to the Mets here. And then second part, how do you control the one-offs you want in your lineups as well? So this kind of depends on what you mean by control, I guess. Let's go back to the early slate. If you have a lineup that you like, where you have this, 5-2-1 stack maybe, and you just don't like the one player who's being used as like a solo piece in that lineup here, right? So I'm going to go to my 5-2-1s. I think this is a good example here. Maybe not. Rougned Odor is just so cheap. Okay, I think this one's better. So we have this 5-2-1, 5 Diamondbacks, 2 A's, and then a giant one-off. Let's say that you do not want to play Thairo Estrada, right? You want to play somebody else. What I would do is set a rule here, or I'm sorry, not set a rule. So you can click this little pencil icon. This allows you to manually edit your lineup. So what I could do is I could go and remove Thairo Estrada, and then I could go and see what other players are available at the second base position. And then I could swap them here, right? So maybe I don't want to play Estrada. Maybe I would rather play Bryson Stott for whatever reason. The builder is going to put Bryson Stott in the lineup. I can save the lineup, and then what is going to happen is that the builder is automatically going to lock the lineup. So what this means is that whether or not you make any other adjustments to exposures, players, etc., we are always going to make sure that this lineup ends up in your set that you take with you here. So if you want to handle it like on a lineup by lineup basis, that is how I would suggest doing it. If you, one thing that we talk about is like setting a rule here that looks like this, where what you do is you choose a stat, and we use home runs specifically, and then you say if at least one player from a team has a low home run expectation, such as 0.1, then use exactly 2 players on the same team. So what we're saying is like, hey, if a guy has a low chance of hitting a home run, we don't really want to use him as a one-off. We'd rather only use that player in a stack. So this is like a way of basically curating your one-off pool to only allow certain type of players as one-offs here. There's probably different ways that you can do this here, but it just really depends what you're looking for. But I think that the rules are super flexible. You could create manual group rules where you could, create a rule for specific players only. There's a lot of different things that you could do here. So I think that those are a couple ways that you could manage your one-offs. All right, jumping over to the YouTube chat. Daniel said, hey, thanks again for another amazing live show. I'm running the early only slate at 3 p.m. for FanDuel, getting 75 to 80% Philly, with them being super expensive. If playing 4 cards, how would you go with your diversification? Sorry, I missed this one. Is it better to play optimals for Showdown or just use a Saber score metric? Okay, so these are 2 different questions. So let's answer really quickly. Mike said, yes, exactly what I was looking to do with the stacking. You gave me some good ideas. Appreciate it. Happy to help you, Mike. Good luck in your contest. All right, getting back to this one. So the question really is, I'm getting 75 to 80% Philly with them being super expensive. If I'm playing 4 cards, how would you go with your diversification? So let's go to the early slate, and let's go to FanDuel. Early only. Okay, so this is the early only. We have Philly. When you say cards to me means Cardinals, but maybe cards means something else. So if you could clarify what cards means, that'd be great. So if I'm playing 4 cards, how far would you go with your diversification? All right. So to me, 75 to 80% is probably too much here for my personal taste here. So let's just say like I'm building lineups here, right? I'm going to make my 2 adjustments on the home screen. I'm just going to generate 500 lineups here, and then we can talk about some diversification tools, right? But it really depends also how many lineups you're building. So maybe you're saying like you're building 4 lineups instead of cards here. Not really sure. I'm going to do this as if I'm building for a 20 max here, and we'll just kind of see where we end up. All right, lineups are finishing here. We are in the post build. I'm just going to click on all batters here just to see this a little simpler. Seeing a ton of Arizona, right? We have 6 of our top 7 exposures to batters are all Arizona, and they're all over 40% here. So this is probably too much for me. If I were to go look at Arizona, they're in a ton of pool exposures here, right? They're in like 44% of our pool exposures. So I'm not super interested in like limiting them heavily here. I would say that, for me, for this particular slate, 50% is probably going to be like the number here for me, like a max exposure of 50 to all these batters. And just like anyone kind of close. So then boom. Okay. So then that's going to spread us out a little bit here. Some Philly guys start to creep up here, seeing some Philly guys come into the picture. And then now what I want to do is I want to do like a little more diversification with mini neeks here. And then I'm going to increase this to 4 because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 batters in one pitcher here. So I think 4 is fine. That puts us down to lineup 91. Let's see what 5 does. 5 also leaves us at 91. So I think this is fine. So we're over half of our pool, like half of the players in our lineups are different from every other lineup in our pool of 20 lineups here. Like that's what Mini Uniques is doing. So basically saying 5 out of 9 players are different for every single lineup. We know that we are pretty spread out on batters here. So as far as like Min Uniques diversification, that's all I kind of really want to do here. And then now I'm going to go back to my right to left approach. So I would think that my stack types are all fine, all 4 stacks at a minimum here. Not super concerned about game stacks. Still 70% Arizona, but I think that's okay. And I want to go in and look at Arizona specifically here. So I'm going to sort by team, and then I'm going to search for Arizona here. So Team Arizona. And let me just make a little space here. Let's get rid of... Nah, let's not get rid of anything. Okay, so 3-hitter for Arizona, 40%, 5-hitter, 40%, 2-hitter, 10%, 8-hitter, 15%, 1-hitter, 20%, 6-hitter, 5%, 4-hitter, 50%, 7-hitter, 35%. The only person I'm probably going to increase here is Pavin Smith. And then I'm just going to put a bottom threshold here for Emmanuel Rivera. Since we're stacking them just so heavily, I want to make sure that I kind of get to all these guys here. So 10% of each, that boosted them all up. So now we look like a little flatter across the lineup here. So I'm frankly okay with that. Going to go back to my top exposures here. Going to go to my team stacks. Still 75% Arizona. I'm going to roll with it. I think this would be okay. At least I know that, okay, I'm getting a lot of Arizona, but I'm spread out across the lineup. I'm making sure to get to all Arizona batters here. So that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as, team stack is like the end all be all here. A lot of these are 4 stacks as well, right? So just depends what you're comfortable with, really at the end of the day. I think that you can lower this, maybe you don't want to play anyone more than 40%, right? And then you just go 40% to all these guys. Like you're not, the approach for this is not a player by player approach. It's basically just a way of spreading out your exposures to all your batters, right? But frankly, for me, this is fine. Even then, no more than 40% to any individual batter, still getting Arizona at 60%. I would be fine with that, right? But I think it's a combination of like mini uniques, some guardrail exposure adjustments, and just taking a peek at all of this combined here. But if I missed anything specific about that question that you wanted to answer, just let me know. All right, second part of the question was, is it better to play optimals for Showdown or just use the Saber score metric? So I think our single game metric is really good here. I think that, I was having a discussion with somebody about this in support yesterday or the day before. And what really happens is that, you're going to get some outlier sim optimal lineups where, especially like for basketball, let's talk about basketball here. You're going to get like some player combinations that just show up over and over, right? And then you're going to have like 4 sim optimals, 3 sim optimals, and then you're going to get to the point where a lot of these lineups are tiny. You know what I mean? A lot of them are like, hey, this is not Showdown. You're going to get to a point where it's like, hey, I have 5 lineups with 2 sim optimals, or I have 5 lineups with 3 sim optimals. I have 10 lineups with 2 sim optimals. And how do you kind of break those ties, right? Is really the question here to me, right? And I think that's where our single game metric for in the post build really comes into play and really does a good job, because then it takes a balance of mean projection and average adjusted ownership negatively weighted, and then breaks those ties and gives you what it perceives to be the best lineups from there. So I think that, using sim optimals by itself is fine, but I think that allowing the builder to have that little extra input also goes a long way here. So if you click on your sorting metrics here, you can click into any sorting metric and see what the formula is here. So basically what sim optimals is, right? Our top lineup is 9 sim optimals. If we look at our single game metric, that is like the first part of this formula. So it would basically be just getting rid of the sum projection and the average adjusted own variables here and only using sim optimals. But with the single game metric, when you get a little lower here, and I accidentally sorted the wrong way. So we have 9 sim optimals, we have 7, we have 7, we have 6, 6, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I think this 5 is a great number here, right? So our 6th lineup is sim optimals 5, and then all the way until lineup 14, which is also sim optimals 5. So somehow the builder needs to say, hey, how do I figure out which lineup is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th in the correct order, and allowing these other variables to be part of the formula that breaks those ties, that makes those decisions, is ultimately a good thing in my opinion. Maybe you're not playing 14 lineups. Maybe you're playing, 10, right? And how do you figure that out? So I think the single game metric is really good here, and I would roll with that over raw sim optimals. And it probably gets worse the lower you go, right? You're probably going to get a ton of 4s if we go further in the pool here, and then a ton of 3s. And how do you break all these ties, right? So for those reasons specifically, I would highly recommend using the single game metric over just raw sim optimals. All right. Ryan Nelson says, Sim giving me 100% AZ stacks for this early slate across 57 lineups. This should be fun. So Ryan, I know you're like joking in here a little bit. I was getting something similar, right, in the build that I just ran for the early slate. So good luck to you. But there are ways to spread out that risk a little bit. And if you're a more risk averse person, so I would really try and utilize some of the things that we just talked about with that FanDuel early slate example here with the capped batter exposures, with the min uniques, with some of these ways to make the builder work a little harder rather than just play what it perceives to be the best plays at an uncapped rate. Daniel said, I'm playing 4 lineups. Sorry. No worries, man. The process is going to be really kind of similar, when you're playing a handful of lineups here. I would say I would even be more inclined to be more spread out, but it just really depends what you think here, right? So if I'm playing 4 lineups, I need to make a decision that basically says, am I okay going all in on one team? And if the answer is yes, I think that's fine. If the answer is no, then you need to figure out what you need to do from there. So pretty interesting. Our top 4 lineups here based on the adjustments that we already made, which we should reset these because we were kind of forcing some exposure to some players on Arizona that was probably hurting us here, some of those min exposures that we set. But when we increase this to 5 min uniques for 4 lineups, we're at lineup 10th is our lowest lineup, all big stacks, 3 Arizona stacks, and then a couple like supporting stacks here. You have to figure out, what you want your lineups to look like and what you're okay with. So I think that some of those thoughts for like bigger lineups probably don't apply here. Like I wouldn't cap batters. I would probably just be okay with playing, 75% of a couple batters if I'm okay going all in on Arizona here, or even Thairo Estrada from San Francisco here. He probably just grades out really well at the same way Perdomo does. But trying to give you like some useful tips here. It's really hard, right? It's really hard. You have to figure out, this is probably why I like running a research build to help me gather my thoughts on the slate and like make some decisions about what direction I want to go even before I get to this step. I feel like I'm kind of flying blind here a little bit, right? Because I'm just trying to make these like split second decisions about teams here. But I like to, run a research build, Look at the matchups, look at the weather, and then kind of come to some conclusions. And then for me, I would need to know if I'm okay going all in on Arizona. And then if I think Arizona is just the best play, I wouldn't even play them at 75%. I'd probably just play them in all 4 lineups and be okay with them missing because they just seem like such a good play today. And then I would probably make sure that all of my Arizona stacks are even 4 stacks. If I liked Arizona and I just think they're the best play on the slate, I would probably do something exactly like that. But you gotta figure that out for yourself and decide what direction you want to go. Ryan said I got 100% of AZ with 3 mini uniques. The builder is saying don't be stupid, play you Darvish and AZ. Sometimes it's that easy, you know what I mean? I would say that the builder can be telling you like, hey, you could win a contest playing you Darvish and AZ and then differentiating elsewhere, right? So I think that what's really interesting about this team stacks tab right now is that we have 100% AZ in our 4 lineups, right? But then we don't have any other team used more than once. So the builder is getting spread out. The builder is saying like, hey, play your AZ. Over here, it's not, you know, our top pitcher is Ryan Nelson, which is actually very funny that your name is Ryan Nelson. Spelled differently here. I'm sure pronounced a little bit differently here. So we're not getting to as much Darvish. We're only getting to 1 Darvish, but the builder's telling me like, hey, it's okay to play Arizona. You know, let's say that we had 100% Darvish. It's okay to play Darvish, but get different elsewhere and then go and get exposure to 4 different teams and then see if we can kind of mix and match and then find a way to ultimately get there, right? So I think that, you know, sometimes it really only takes 1 play to be different to help you win a contest. I think that, you know, this top stack is really interesting here, that we have a 4 stack of AZ, we have a 2 stack of the Giants, and then we have a 1-off from Oakland, the 5 here, and then a 1-off from the Twins with an 8 hitter. Like probably with the ownership here, this 3% Oakland A's Carlos Perez is like probably enough to get you, you know, unique and like not even have to worry about being duplicated, right? But that's just one example here. Kyle said, is there a way to see what the top stacks will be? So the best way to figure that out is run a build, go into the post build, and then see what the top stacks that you're getting are. We don't have like a on like the home screen, you know, like a top stacks tool or anything like that. What you could do is you could come into team stacks and then you could sort by projected runs to see what the highest implied run total teams are. But we don't offer like any type of like leverage where we think you should play. We really try to let the builder kind of guide you to those decisions. So come in, you know, run a build, don't adjust anything on the home screen, and then just kind of see what you're getting on the other side. The closest thing that we have to like an estimation of optimals is our stack pool exposure. So this is basically how often a specific team comes up across all the lineups that we build. So here, you know, you ask for 20 lineups. We're going to build you 500 and give you some options here. And then across that 500, you know, this is basically a summary. It's like, hey, in all of the lineups that were created, Arizona actually came up 44% of the time. I think what's like most interesting is that, okay, you know, Arizona came up 44% of the time. We're getting to a lot of them naturally here, right? And let's say that we're playing 20 lineups instead, and we're not even looking at mini uniques yet. We're just doing research. We have 100% of our lineups, 20 out of 20, have Arizona, but we only have 1 Cincinnati lineup, and they're in about as many of the pool lineups as Arizona is, right? So, like, why is that, right? And that might be a ownership decision that the builder made, right? So if you go and look at the ownerships of the batters on Arizona, we have sort by order here. 14%, 3%, 27, 12, 11, 5, 10, 12, 1. And then we go and look at Cincinnati. And 25, 36, 28, 10, 14, 24, 13, 2, 1. So ownerships for Cincinnati look to be much, much higher on this slate, probably because they're playing in Colorado, as opposed to Arizona. So what the builder is saying is like, hey, I think that these two teams are really similar. Like I'm speaking as if I'm the builder. I think these two teams are very similar. I think that, their implied run totals are really close. I think that the batters match up fairly well against each other. But this other team is like half as owned as Cincinnati. So that is what is making the builder go and give you more Arizona, right? But maybe you're like, okay, well, they're close, right? So that doesn't mean I want to be all in on Arizona and all out on Cincinnati just because of ownership. Maybe I want to play it a little closer to the vest here, right? And so maybe I want to play max 75% Arizona, and I want to at least get 25% exposure to Cincinnati, right? And maybe you make that decision to kind of bring those teams closer because we know that they're generally both good plays on this slate with how often they're showing up in our stack pool exposure, right? So that's kind of the feedback that I'm looking for, and that is how I'm going through thinking about these things prior to finishing my lineup set that I'm ultimately going to submit here. Kyle said, would like to find an edge on going for some minimum owned stacks if I choose a chalky pitcher. Yeah, so kind of getting back to like this one lineup here, I would just be like a little careful with that thinking. There are 9 players in this lineup, right? If one of your pieces is chalky, that doesn't mean that all the other pieces in your lineup need to be super low owned. Like Yu Darvish is 45% owned here, but he is only 1 out of 9 players in this lineup. That's like 11% or whatever here. It's okay to go and play a 4 stack of another chalky team here, right? Like we're still on FanDuel. You still have 3-4 other roster spots to fill out here, and that's what the builder is kind of doing here, right? It's going and getting a 6% owned Michael Conforto. It's going and getting a 3% owned Carlos Perez. And then Willie Castro and Estrada are both about 11% owned here, right? So not like in the 20s, 30s, right around 10%. But these 4 plays alone, are going to differentiate you enough. And then these players showed up as good plays in the Sims often enough to make it into this lineup. You're playing the chalky Yu Darvish. You're playing the what SaberSim is saying is like the high leverage Arizona play here, and then you're still getting different, right? So I would just say, you might not need to get as different as you might think, and the builder is going to show you what it believes, how different you need to get to have enough leverage on the field to take down contests, but still play the best plays. All right. Looks like we are all caught up in support, Discord, and YouTube chat here. If anybody has any additional questions, now is a great time to get those in. So I will wait for any questions to come in for a minute here while I talk about Owner's Box. If you guys are not playing on Owner's Box, what are you doing? You guys got to get over there. The contests continue to overlay. The contests are generally softer than what you're going to find on DraftKings, FanDuel, or Yahoo here. You cannot beat overlaid contests. You cannot beat no rake contests. So I would highly recommend including those in your contest mix. And then if you use code SABER or SaberSim when you sign up, 1, you can get a $500 deposit bonus. And then 2, we will track your entry fees. And each time you hit one of these thresholds, $3,500 in entries, $5,000 in entries, $7,500 in entries, we will reach out to you at each of those markers and ask if you want to cash in that credit. If you say yes, it will reset to 0, and there is no limit on the amount of credit that you can earn. So that number will automatically start being tracked once again. But looks like we are all set here, everybody. So until tomorrow, I will see you guys. Take care. Good luck in your lineups. If a question pops in your head throughout the day, drop it in the Office Hours channel. If you're not in the Discord, there's a link in the description below. Nice to have a steady queue of questions to get started with prior to tomorrow's show. Looking forward to the Thursday sweat. Thursdays are great. We got golf. We got early MLB. So get that all-day sweat. So until tomorrow, take care. Good luck in your contest. I will see you all. Bye.